you want to create a new program. You should go ahead and name that right now. A good name, if you remember, has both what it is and it has your name. So a good name might be Mr. W, Explore Program number 1. Let go. We'll open up. Okay, here we are inside that Lego coding interface. There's different types of blocks. Up here at the left, you've got your move blocks. If you drag this down, this is the one we've talked about before. Once it comes down, you've got options. Now, on the setup that you guys created, you should have your motors plugged into ports B and C. It's kind of the default setup that should come in already checked for you. And we have directions. We've got move forward, move backwards, and stop. So you have an option there to stop the robot. Steering. If we want this thing to turn, we can turn it left or right. A lot of you in your program have started with a move forward. And then, if you're exploring the planet, you might want to use one of your weight blocks. Those weight blocks have time, touch, light, sound, distance. The two you're going to be working with are the touch and distance. And sound isn't a bad idea. One thing we didn't do, which we probably want to do, is we're going to want to repeat this code because we want this robot to continue exploring over and over, and that's where we use this loop. So we're going to move this loop up here. We're going to put our block inside the loop. If you want to move a loop, if you need more space, you have to be right on the inside edge right there, and you can drag this thing out. Right there, I ended up dragging out the wrong part, so let's see if we can do that again. First we'll drag out our program line, then we'll open up the loop. Okay, so first thing we're going to do a wait time. That gives us a little bit of time after we start the program before the robot starts running. That gets your hand out of the way. That way it doesn't sense your hand and start going backwards immediately. And then wait distance. That's your sonar sensor. Now, or ultrasonic. Over here we got distance. We got 3 options. We have, just 2 options, centimeters and inches. Notice this is less than. We can also switch it to greater than. So let's say you're driving away from something. And you want to make sure you're far enough away from it before it starts doing something. This time, instead of sensing something you're going towards, you sense something you're going away. Maybe you want to be so far away before you turn. You could use that sonar distance. Most of you are using the less than. And in inches, probably don't want to be more than 5 or 6 inches away from that cone. You might try something like that. Drag this down. And port 4, always double check to make sure you're plugged into the right port. Okay, once you've sensed that, then you're going to have the robot respond and do the next action. Now back here on our motor block, we forgot one thing. We set this to go for just 1 rotation. So this motor block would only turn the wheels over 1 time. We probably want to change that to unlimited. So this will continue to go. We'll just keep going until we get to here. And it'll stop. And it'll do whatever happens after this ultrasonic block. Okay, so we're going to put a move in here. Now, if we're getting ready to crash into something that's in front of us, we sense it. At that time, we're going to change to a move backwards. Now, we can move straight back. We could move backwards turning. Moving backwards turning might be the best option because if we move straight back and then continue going forwards, we'll continue to crash into the same object. Moving backwards turning is allow us to point ourselves in a different direction afterwards. So we're going to do that. Moving backwards turning, the next option is probably to, that's our touch sensor. We're going to crash into something in that direction. So, touch. We're going to pull that in. Now, pressed, released, or bumped. Your touch sensor is a digital sensor. It has 2, if we're getting into more traditional programming, instead of the block programming, we would say it has 2 possible responses. It's either pressed on, which is a 1. It's released off, which is a 0. Or you can have the program record the press and release, the push in and release. And so you have those 3 options. If you want to bounce off of something before something happens, that'd be bumped. If you want to wait until the button is released, maybe that button is used, something's always holding it down, you wait until it's lifted up, you'd use the released option. For what you're doing, press probably works best. Okay, at that point we'd loop back to the front and repeat. This type of program would probably work real well for the first challenge.